a video on me faffing around with Pea and Ham soup. So I was having a think the other day, and I was kind of thinking it'd be kind of quite nice to up the amount of ham in a Pea and Ham soup. So it's kind of like more substantial, so it's more of a meal rather than like a soup or a starter. And then I was kind of thinking, well, actually, if we upped the amount of ham and put in less kind of soup, and then we could serve it on a bit of crispy fried sourdough, and then we could serve it with a poached egg as well. So it's kind of more of a starter more than this kind of soup. And I was thinking, because if you use this cooking bacon in the supermarkets, it's normally like the offcuts from the bacon, so you tend to get better quality bacon for a really cheap price. I was thinking, well, if we use that, then that's not going to be like cutting into the budget too much, so we'll be able to get away with using more ham struck bacon. So I've got so it's going to be more like a chunky. The soup's going to be more like a sauce, and then we're going to have big chunks of the ham stroke bacon, and then I'm going to use lard to fry the sourdough as well. So that kind of falls in with the hammy bacon type of thing. So we've got on the back, I've got 200 grams of dried peas, which I've soaked overnight, so they've plumped up to 400 grams. I'm just going to cook them in a little bit of water because I want them to kind of go mushy, and then we can add some of the bacon stock to that to kind of form the loose kind of soup. So we've got 400 grams worth of peas. You could just buy a tin of mushy peas, to be honest. So I've got 2 onions in some water, which we're going to poach the cooking bacon in, which will just take out the excess kind of salt from it. I find bacon salty, so it's just easier to kind of poach it and cook it that way. So as you can see, that's a nice bit of bacon, is that? So I'm gonna cook it all. Just be able to use it for something else. But you get some nice big chunks of bacon, and it's just, once we've cooked it, it's easier to cut up as well. So if you when you're in the supermarket, if you go through these, you can generally find some that are almost like gammon steaks. So they're nice and thick, and it's just where the machine can't make a nice slice of meat anymore, so they just sell it as cooking bacon. So that's all fine. So we'll just break it up a little bit, and then we'll poach that gently. We'll keep an eye on the peas, keep adding a bit of water to the peas. Ideally, what I'd like to do is I'd like to cook the bacon and then use the bacon stock, ham stock, to just get that green copper fingers, and use that then ham stock to cook the peas. But the only problem with that is that once you start adding any kind of salty liquid to peas, it wants to they take longer to cook because of the salt or whatever. So it's just a case of keeping an eye on those. So bring that up to boil and then slowly poach. I'll put a lid on it. I'll put on a big pan. So lid on that, just to kind of stop the water from evaporating too much. I'd normally put in some baking powder. I'm not going to put any baking powder into the peas. You can get any water though. I'm not going to put any baking powder into the peas because that's not baking, bicarbonate of soda, which softens the peas, speeds up the cooking process, but I don't want that flavour of bicarbonate in there. It's alright when you're making big batches because you don't tend to notice the kind of flavour unless you've got a really sophisticated palate or know what you're kind of tasting. But we'll just cook those gently. So that's it. So it's just a case of cooking, and then we'll form a bit of the soup. We'll make the whole soup, and then we'll use a little bit of that soup and lots of that bacon to kind of make the sauces to go on the fried bread, and then the poached eggs. So it's like more like a starter stroke breakfast type of thing. Yeah. Although, would you have Pea and Ham soup for breakfast? Some people I know would. But anyway, so that's what I'm going to do, and then we'll see the results. Oh, and I bought some extra large eggs as well, so we'll get a nice poached egg. Or do we want to fry? No, because we're going to fry the bread, so we'll poach the eggs, and then we'll keep them nice and soft, runny yolks. But it'll be good. So the peas have soaked up that water that I added, and they've started to cook. The water's gone now, and they're starting to fry a bit. So what we can do, and they are soft, so they're starting to cook. So now we can add some of this ham stock to it, because they're not going to toughen up now. Now they've started to become soft, they're not going to toughen up. So we can add some of that ham stock, and then that ham stock, well, bacon stock, but ham, bacon, not that much different. Not that much different. So we can add some of that stock to that and carry on cooking those, and then they will mush down, take on all the flavour from the stock and some of the saltiness, and we'll be able to make the soup out of that. The onions, what we'll do is when we puree up the soup, we'll put the onions in. I'm just cooking the onions in there, just so they cook. We could have fried them off. I couldn't be bothered, if I'm honest. And yeah, there's different ways of cooking things, and you get different results. I couldn't be bothered frying them off. I suppose the best way to do it would be to take some of the lard from the ham or the bacon, use that lard to soften down the onions, chop them up, soften them down in the lard, and then add them to the peas and make the soup that way. But that's a bit of a faff, whereas you can just put the onions in the stock, cut them that way. The onions infuse into the flavour of the stock. We then use that stock and those onions to make that soup delicious. So, peas are mushy. I've added the onion that was cooking in the stock to the peas, and I mixed it around. It's still kind of quite thick. I'm going to thin it down. Well, I'm going to puree it first, then we'll kind of thin it down. Taken all the meat out, chopped it up, remove the excess fat. The stock's poaching on the back, and that's what we're going to cook the eggs in. So let's puree up these. Let's puree up these peas and see what kind of volume we get. I don't think I'm going to need all the peas. A little bit thinner than that, so a ladle full of stock, just thin it down just slightly. Yeah, I think that's about right. So that out of the way, banging the plastic on my hand, not on the metal. So that's kind of quite thick, as thick as I want it to be, so I think we can poach the eggs. So turn the temperature up on the stock, and the nice big fresh eggs. They're not going to take that long. Actually, I won't do it just yet. I can always pause the camera. Let's get that right first. Don't need that. So I'll just get rid of half that. 2/3 of that soup. And then we'll add in half the meat, and we'll kind of get an idea of a recipe. Always add a little bit more, difficult to kind of take it away. And we're going to add a bit more to that. So I reckon so that's going to be about right, is that? That's going to be about right. So that amount of meat for about that amount of soup. So I can just heat up a little bit because the meat will have cooled down. Do you want a little bit more? Yeah, I think this is going to be about the right recipe. So it's going to be like 4 decent sized portions. That there, like that. Ooh. Need to clean up the pan, otherwise it's going to burn. The stove as well. So that there. Lid on just so it comes up to temperature a bit better. We can get rid of that plate of meat. And then actually go for the eggs in the back. It's just utilising the stock. It's just a shame while it's there not to use it. Not really boiling too much. want to set the eggs more than anything else. So 2 eggs, 2 portions. I'm going to eat a lot. I reckon there's about 4 portions here. 4 eggs if you did that. That amount of ham and that amount of soup, and then let's have a look. Wipe that down. Get rid of that. We need that. Plates. It's looking like it's coming up with temperature at the front. How does it taste? It tastes good. Pea and ham, it's never not going to taste good. So that one there, that's fine. And then I've just done some sourdough toast. That's fried in some lard. So that'll be the base of that. So look at these eggs. No, that's not ready just yet. Nope. I think that the yolk will be nice and soft, but the white will just be a little bit too soft. Do that at the last minute. I should be talking when I'm actually just thinking to myself on the fly. So I'll just have a bit of kitchen paper on there. Turn that off the back. Yeah, that's going to be fine as that. So I'm not going to cook anymore. Is that a better one? Yes. Right, so that off. Now we use that spoon. Let's ruined it for a picture. My cloth. I'll use that. Then eating off the egg. Drain off the excess liquid. Egg on top. And I think that's spot on. So I'm going to have to be quick if I take a picture. So I'll stop. I'll take a picture of that, and then we've got a thumbnail, and then we'll come back and I'll cut into the egg. To prove that the egg is nice and soft, cut into that. There we go. Spot on. That's going to be delicious. Right, so this is the second one. So let's just have a bit of a taste. Really good. The egg's just been in a little bit longer, but let's just see if it's still soft. There we go. Perfect poached egg. That's delicious, and even better with an egg. But most things are improved with an egg. There we go. That works. It's delicious. Don't know if I'll ever use it anywhere, but it was an idea, and it worked well.